And good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, I had to wake up. We're gonna have to start, Lisa, we're gonna have to start giving coffee out, a little more, Yeah, that's true. We'll get some of that Cuban coffee. That, that gets everybody going in the morning. So, if you don't mind, let's, please stand, for a moment of silence or prayer and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And I would like, if I can, Vice Chairman, if you do the prayer, Mr. Cueto, if you lead us later with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please bow your heads.
Amen. Cueto. All right, let's play ball. Maria Lisa, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Present.
Board Member Monestein. Here. Board Member Smith-Fano. Treasurer Weinberg. Here. Vice Chair Moss. Here. Chairman Diaz.
Here. All members accounted for, right? All right. I need a motion for the approval of the agenda to move forward.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We move on. Declaration of voting conflicts. Does anybody in the board have any conflict with anything in this agenda? Please state so at this time. Let the record reflect that nobody stated any conflicts in the agenda. Is that good, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir.
Doing your job for you.
Yeah.
Citizens' comments. Any citizens that has a comment that would like to come up and speak, you got 2 minutes. State your name and address. And, all right, no mad rush to the podium, so therefore citizens' comments is now over. Regular agenda. Let's go.
Item A, approval of fiscal year 2022 audited annual comprehensive financial report.
Morning.
Good morning, board members. Item 2A has several parts of it. This is our fiscal year 2022 financial audit. We have our audit partner here, William Blen. Part of the audit partner is required to give required communications to the governing body as far as the results and other communications to you all as the governance of the authority. This item is to accept the fiscal year 2022 audited financial statements, as well as to approve the disposal of fixed assets of $1.8 million, which is per the policy, the governing body is required to do so. And there was a contribution of assets of $142,000 for a parcel that was given to Miami-Dade County. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Blen, and he'll present the information and whatever questions thereafter. Here you go, Bill.
Is this mic on? Can you guys hear me? Good morning, Mr. Chairman,
Morning.
board members, William Blend, MSL, your external auditors. I'm here to report to you on the June 30, 22 financial statement audit results, as well as Ms. Schaefer alluded to, do my required communications, go over the audit reports, and then I'll do some high-level financial information review, and then obviously at any point answer any questions that you might have as to this process. And also would encourage you, as I work for this board, or the team works for this board, If you have any questions going forward, please always reach out to me. I'm available anytime to make sure that I'm responding properly to any of your inquiries or questions. So with that, I'll start the presentation. Just talk about the audit process itself briefly. Obviously, this is an audit of the authority's financial statements. That's the main focus of it. We do, however, because it's done in accordance with government audit standards, we do evaluate internal controls for the purposes of identifying our risk areas within the audit process. And so we evaluate and test significant controls such as over procurement, the tolling process, and things like that. We also look at significant compliance issues, direct and material compliance issues. If you should have any federal or state grants, we would look at that. But obviously, generally with the authority, we would focus on things like debt compliance and legal authorities, procurement policies that are significant to the financial accounting and reporting. We also evaluate IT from the sense of how the IT environment may or may not coordinate and make sure that the transactions are audited, processing properly, so we evaluate that. Nothing came to our attention during that process. Again, it's not an IT audit per se of all the IT systems, and many of the functions and IT controls are utilized by your outside vendors, and we do look at their IT audit reports, which were called SOC reports. So we get those and look at those for any significant findings, which nothing was identified. And then again, the final item there is the financial reporting, which is the financial statements that you've received prior to the meeting. The auditors require communication, so our responsibility as your auditors to perform our services in accordance with all of the appropriate audit standards. I've already talked about the idea that you're required to have this audit performed in accordance with government audit standards, as well as the rules of the Auditor General in the state of Florida, who's really the body that kind of controls what we do as auditors in the state of Florida. We talked about already our review of the internal controls and compliance, so I won't go over that again. Significant other matters. This is a time where if there was something significant we wanted to bring to your attention. The items that there's two GASBs, or government accounting standards, that are coming due in the next 2 years. And this past year, the big standard that you may have heard at other entities in the government environment was the lease standard. This entity, the authority, didn't have a significant impact as it related to the lease standard. The next two standards, which are very similar to the lease standard in that you have agreements with other parties. In the case of what we commonly call the P3 standard, or the public-private, public-public relationships, that's a similar thing. If you have a long-term agreement which identifies certain requirements and control over assets of either party, and that agreement calls for that control to be done by the other party, then those things have to be reported in your financial statements. And so the other one is subscription-based information technology, or the acronym for that, which I can never say correctly, is called SBITA, or S-B-I-T-A, however you'd like to pronounce that. And that's GASB 96, and that's related to potential software agreements that you have with vendors. And so these are important standards that if you find you have agreements which are applicable, it's important that you analyze those in advance and get those reported in your financial statements. So we will look to staff to make sure that occurs as you go forward. And so, but we do want the board to understand that these are important and significant, potentially significant, so staff needs to do their due diligence and evaluate all the agreements with these parties. The next item, let me see. Management's representation was provided to us. The assigned individual to oversee our services, as has been in the past, is Marie Schaefer, your CFO. And then the audit schedule, I was just looking at the audit report date, which is November 10th. And, you know, you're a June 30 year end. That's well within 4 months of the year end. So I don't know. I can tell you, working just solely in the government environment, that's very timely reporting. So that's good for the citizens. And it goes to the idea that staff is able to accumulate and identify all of the key financial reporting items, get those into a set of financial statements to be presented to you. So just want to give the due care that, or the due acknowledgement that that deserves, because it doesn't always happen that way. With that, I will get into the service and deliverables. The big item, as always, is going to be the audit report. And this is the highlight of every auditor around the country this year, is to talk about the new audit report. So what I can tell you mostly about it is, instead of being 2 or a page and a half, it's now 3 pages long. That's ultimately what they've done. But really, the layout of the report, what's significant is, we used to have the audit opinion as it related to the financial statements, and that would be the last item in that report. That is now at the very front. And you can see your audit report identifies that you have an unmodified opinion, meaning the financial information presented today was audited by us. And we did not find any issues as it relates to from a materiality standpoint, and you have a clean audit report that you can rely upon the numbers, and that's the bottom line. I will just wanted to point out the other items that I do think is unique or different is when it gets into the auditor's responsibility. And you see there, they kind of laid out really what the audit process is and kind of identified in a bullet point format. And so again, just be aware that this is a new format, but most importantly, as you see on the screen there, you have an unmodified opinion. And then issued separately from the financial statements are the compliance reports. The first one there, which is required by government audit standards, is your report on internal controls over financial reporting and compliance, and you have received a clean report, and we had no findings there. So again, that goes to the due diligence of staff. The auditor's management letter, which is a requirement in the state of Florida, and it asks us to go through various items for them, and again, you have no findings there. So again, well done by staff. And then the independent accountant's report as it relates to your investment policy. Your investment policy is in accordance with the Florida statutes as required. So essentially, you've received an audit of your financial statements, which has resulted in a clean audit opinion with no findings to report to you. I would open it up before I get into, I believe the next thing is the high-level financial information. Are there any questions about anything I've asked or said to this point?
Members? Anybody? Okay.
Okay.
Continue.
So
Thank you.
just again, I know that you get really good information. You have a finance committee, so a lot of this information is not new to you or surprising to you, but just want to point out, you can see here there were good results in 22. Your current ratio is up. Your debt coverage ratio is up. Those are key components. I think that is, again, well done by the organization to, make sure things are running properly. I think that's been recently acknowledged by the rating agencies, which again saves the organization as well as obviously the toll payers money as you go out to the market for financing. And so you can see here, you sit well as it relates to your balance sheet situation. So. And then this is your operating results. Again, obviously very high level. You can see revenues are up, expenses are up as well. So you had increased tolling, and we can all understand that as we continue to get back to some sort of normalcy, if you will, in activities. And the operating expenses, the main issue there is this idea that, as we all understand, there were some issues surrounding the authority over the last few years, and as that hindered the ability to renew various contracts, and when those contracts were renewed, and we're also well aware of, as we hear in the news every day, costs are going up, and so that when those contracts were renewed, obviously they weren't renewed at the same level or a lesser level, if you will. So that pretty much accounts for the majority of the increase in expenses. However, they were clearly offset by the increase in revenues, and you see an increase in your income. So again, overall, from a financial perspective, the organization is in a healthy position. And with that, I would open it up for any final questions or comments.
Everybody? Okay. Marie?
Yes, I know it's a lengthy report, so if any board members would like to meet individually, I could go over the report and answer any questions. If I may, I do want to thank my staff, Christina Parrish, who is our accounting manager, who did a tremendous job on the audit, Joseph Zonarega, who is our assistant accounting manager as well, my entire staff and procurement, Jackie Butrago, and particularly IT. IT has always stepped up and helped and made sure that, as Mr. Blend had indicated, that we get the audit done in a timely way. from the standpoint of meeting the deadlines, but also from public transparency to get everything posted on the website. So, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chairman.
I was going to ask our treasurer, if, because I know she's all over it, what her thoughts were, if she was,
Opine.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. You know that's where I was going. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Great presentation and great report. If you guys have a few moments, it's actually quite a read because it's so positive. And no, Marie, you commended your staff, but I want to commend you on behalf of the board. This is really, I'm tickled pink at how easy you make. I'm a spoiled politician. I served in the city of Aventura for 9.5 years with very, very strong, solid budgets and annual CFARs, and I come into MDX with some hesitation in 2013, and I've not been disappointed, not a single year, despite everything we've gone through. So my only comment, Mr. Vice Chair, is that we are strong. We continue to be strong despite the noise. Our results are positive. Later in my treasurer's report, I do want to share Moody's report. I want to read some of that, and Fitch's from back in September. We continue to be strong, and it's a function of both our continuing great new leadership, the staff that's been unmoved and unbothered by anything that's going on around us, and this new board that we've put together, Mr. Chair. So thank you.
Thank you.
More later.
Madam Executive Director, you want to add anything?
I ditto everything Board Member Weinberg said. I really commend Marie and the staff here at MDX. They make my job easier. So congratulations to every single one of you for us having our clean audit that we have every single year.
Thank
All
you.
right. Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, congratulations to staff. And it starts from, certainly the administrators and our current and our previous administrators. That's what I want to say. Thank you for your work. One of the things that I wanted to just comment on is in reference to IT concerns as it relates to the safeguards of our system. And who does the deep dive on that? Because again, it's a part of the audit process. They take a look, but, is there something that we have in place that does the deep dive on that to make sure that our protections are as great as they could possibly be? Because it's not a problem until you have a problem.
Correct. Correct. So we have two components of the system. We have the in-lane system, and then we have the back office system that we partner with the state of Florida and the Florida Turnpike. And the back office system goes through a separate audit, which we provide to Mr. Blen. There's a separate auditing team as far as the controls and as far as the compliance and so forth. Back in, I guess, 2020, the discussion we've had with Mr. Blen was that we are going to look to have a separate audit on the lane side of it. We went through COVID, and then we went through the litigation, not being able to get new services. And I think for the upcoming year, you're going to see that in the budget for fiscal 24. We'll probably start it in fiscal 23 to evaluate that. But we do have an audit team that looks at transactions, it looks at quality of images. So there is a process in place to look at that, but we want more of an automated process to audit the system itself. And it's a very complex process, so it's a little bit different, and it's a little bit lengthy audit than the financial statements are.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm going beyond that.
No, I see.
I'm
That's why.
going into, what
Whole system.
protective,
Yeah.
kinds of, systems do we have in place, and, how do we really, test that to make sure that we don't have a problem with folks coming in, hacking the system,
Correct.
taking it over, and then, holding us hostage.
Correct. So we do have a dual system in place, dual servers.
Before
Yes.
you answer that question, one of the things that we don't do is put it out in public.
Yes.
So what the limitation of what the Vice Chairman is asking for is extremely important. But I just finished going through something like that in my prior situation. And we need to make sure what the Vice Chairman is saying, is taken in full value because this is changing every day in a way that it's hard to keep up with to a point. So whatever the limitations are, please just be brief, because we do not need to open more doors.
Just from a high level, we do have standard operating procedures on the toll system. We have, duplicate systems. Obviously, if one system goes down, we have, backup and so forth. So we can get into that in a separate discussion if you'd like.
And that's kind of, I wanted to get an overall overview, but I do think that we need to have a closed meeting. I don't know, Mr. Attorney, if I'm speaking out of school here, but from a security standpoint too, because like I say, you don't have a problem until you have a problem,
Very correct. Yeah, I'm sure the computer guys, their chief could give you an overview and tell you what we're doing with the system.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
We could set up a one-on-one meeting for
Okay,
that.
okay,
With them,
all right.
yes.
There you go. I
Yeah,
like that one.
from
Go
the
ahead.
auditor's perspective, what I can tell you is this. It's interesting because, we're all in this web-based and the new age, and, at the end of the day, the best security is us as people, right? So what we hear about is you can have the best security system in place, and if there's going to be an email that's going to get through, and it's when that individual employee unfortunately clicks on a link and somebody's in your system. And unfortunately, I can tell you from, experiences that I either read or have been a part of throughout the state, it really comes down to people being, everybody being trained up and aware of these situations, so.
I might add that our computer section does send us those fake emails just to test us to see if we're hitting on it.
You're on the ball, right?
Yeah, see if we're on the ball. So I know they're doing it. But I'll just tell you, that we do get emails. And you're like, what's this?
I think we're going to go back to the old school, paper and pen. But anyways, that there's no breaching there. So, but I get it. And first of all, thank you for everything. It's important that these oversights be taken at all times, even though I think we got an incredible department that's doing an incredible job, as everybody's pretty much stated, and it shows. So when it shows independently, it just takes away from others that don't want to make sure that we look good. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is, and we want to make sure that it's not just stated, but verified and put forth in these reports. So thank you for what you do for us, and as a whole, as a board and executive director, obviously, we thank staff for all the hard work that they've done, and yourself and your team.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, with that, Carlos, go to B.
No, I think she has a couple other things.
Item B is mine also.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
I'm going to put in a request of
Wait,
the IT
Marie.
for a better microphone.
I thought you said that we have to
I'll take,
disposable fiscal assets
Yes.
and contribution assets to other entities.
they can take one action item on that, on item A.
Okay, well, you want to take an action on that? You approve it?
Motion to approve the entire item?
That's what I was asking. If I have a motion by Vice Treasurer, second by Member Cueto. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? None. Okay.
Okay, now item B, approval to advertise MDX contract RFP 23-03, traffic and revenue consultant services, $2,500,000, and we need a board oversight.
I need a motion to approve this advertisement. You have a comment? Go ahead, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I noticed in the item, just a quick question for staff, that there's only a one-step because there's not too many firms. Just wanted to understand a little bit of the dynamic as to the procurement and that determination to take a one-step approach.
I think mostly we've always done it that way. I know that's not the right answer, but we've always done one step to evaluate the firms itself and a component negotiate pricing afterwards on that. So we've done one step on professional services. Yeah, it is, actually.
Anybody else? No motion. You want to make a motion? Motion stated. Do I have a second? Second stated. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? None. All right, let's move on.
We need an oversight?
You need a board oversight. A board member. Cueto just,
I heard Cueto volunteer, yeah.
never ask a question, my friend. You're going to learn all about our process.
Oh, okay.
Oh, gosh. Item C, approval to advertise MDX contract 23-11, construction services for State Road 874 dynamic message sign.
By Commissioner Monestein, second by the Vice Chairman. Do you need to stay up at one? It's okay, you got a beautiful tie on today.
I'm here in case you have any questions.
All right, so with that, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay.
Item D, reject all bids and re-advertise MDX contract ITB 23-08, system-wide signing and pavement markings, maintenance, engineer's estimate, $3,573,466.34. That would be Mr. Toledo.
Motion to reject all bids. I'd like to move it. For purpose of discussion? Second. There's a motion and there's a second. Who seconded it? I'm sorry. All right. With that, we're open for discussion. You have the floor.
I just wanted sort of an overview why we're rejecting all of the bids, just so that it goes on record.
So we received 4 bids for this invitation to bid, and the low 2 bidders, the number 1 bidder did not meet the pre-qualifications. They were using a sub-consultant to meet one of the pre-quals, but the sub-consultant erroneously put in a certification they didn't have to the prime. He was unaware. He recognized that that was something that was wrong, so they accepted that they were not qualified for the job. The second low bidder did not provide a bid bond, which is a requirement of the bid, and that's a non-waivable item. The number 3 and the number 4 bidders were $1 million off from the number 1, number 2. So to award a contract $1 million over what we know we can save, we thought was not the right recommendation to this board. So we recommend putting it back out and getting a better competitive price for us.
Through the chair, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Mr.
You have the floor.
Does anything preclude these bidders from rebidding?
Not at all. They understand the mistakes they made, and they can correct them on the second go-around.
Them?
Absolutely, we have.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, so with that, I had a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Next item.
Item E, approval of contract award for MDX contract 23-01, design and engineering services for the widening of 137th Avenue, not to exceed $799,850.
Motion by Member Cueto, second by the Vice Chairman. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? None. Next item.
Okay, the next item is my item, actually. Item F, litigation between MDX and KB Investment Corporation, $2,243,400. Okay, at this point, the actual documents for the settlement are not completed. There's a couple issues outstanding that they explained to me, and I thought it'd be negligent to bring it to the board until it was completely sealed. The issues are not the ones I put in the email that I sent you, all about the mediation, but there are some issues that I have some grave concerns after talking to outside counsel. So what I'm asking for is, we were supposed to have a shade meeting today. I'll postpone the shade meeting till January 24th, and hopefully on the 24th, I'll have a completed settlement agreement.
Mr. I'm sorry. He moves a deferral of this item, second by the Vice Chairman. Your wisdom is what we go by, and if you're telling us,
That's scary.
we're listening very closely and immediately addressing it. So I have, a motion and a second. Motion to move it to January.
To the next board meeting, January 24th.
All right, to the next board meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, next item.
Item G, approval to advertise MDX procurement contract, ITB 23-13, system-wide maintenance of traffic. Engineer's estimate, $3,213,892.96.
Motion by Board Member Cueto, second by Board Member Manistine. All right. That's the way it works, you see? All right. With that, I had a motion and I had a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? None. All right. Next item.
Item H, approval of participatory contribution for the Miami-Dade Transportation Planning Organization for fiscal years 2022, 2023, $44,444.
Do I have a motion on this item?
I want to first
Member
thank
Modesty.
the director for adding this item at my request to the agenda. As a former member of the TPO and a former chair, I'm sure, like you understand the importance of coordinating and with of the TPO on many projects happening on this region, and we want to be the type of members to the TPO that basically pay our dues and contribute to the work that they do, and I move approval of this item.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion? Member Quano?
First, I'd like to thank you, Board Member Monestein, for bringing this forward. I would like to go on the record because aside from Ms. Weinberg, you all are quote-unquote new. We do work very close with the TPO, and we have contributed over close to $15 million to the SMART Plan, MDX. So I wanted that to go on record, but I also wanted to share the fact that we have not been active, and I'm very proud and happy to say that as of next week, we will again be participating in the TPO. I am a gubernatorial appointee to the TPO, and I'm happy to also report that I can now return to the dais of the TPO and look forward to that.
Yeah.
That was, and again, that was not my doing. We had some. I'm glad everybody, so thank you, and there's a first and a second, but you have my support.
All right, outstanding. Anything else? Anybody else? All right, so that, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? None. Next item.
Approval of summary minutes. We're done the regular agenda.
Okay,
You usually take over after this.
moved by Member Weinberg. All right, second by Member Cueto. See, when you look and smile this way, it's simple. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? None. And
Discussion items.
discussion items, okay, customer service
Outreach
update.
update.
Yes,
Presentation.
we have a presentation for this item. I know if, yes.
Bernie, okay,
Bernardo Escobar will give the presentation.
come on down.
I'm going to introduce our team to make the presentation in a few minutes, but before I do, I wanted to give a brief historical perspective to the newest members of our board, so everybody's on equal footing, understanding where we are and how we do things, and I think it's important.
You start, you state your name and.
Bernardo
and your
Escobar.
position, Please. Just for the record.
Special Projects Manager, or Jack of all trades, as I'm known here,
That works.
as Bernardo Escobar.
Thank you.
As part of my portfolio with MDX, in addition to managing the contract for governmental consultant team, I also manage our public communication team. In the past, MDX had employed a public information and communications manager under the engineering division. A few years ago, MDX consolidated functions and reduced its internal administrative staff from approximately 45 employees to approximately 30 employees in order to meet statutory budget guidelines enacted by the Florida legislature for all expressway authorities. And this requirement is administered by the Florida Transportation Commission every year. The internal public information and communications manager position was eliminated by our former director, and I was asked to absorb these duties that used to be performed under him. Predating my 7.5 years with MDX, that position had been a source of issues and friction in this agency. We have also had advertising firms in the past, but found that large portions of the budget was being invested in production and marketing concepts and studies, and not enough went into advertising mediums that actually reach our customers and the residents of Miami-Dade County. Transportation communicators need to understand the transportation industry. From a political, operational, efficiency, and customer service perspective, I feel strongly that we have the best and most effective means to reach out to the community today. We have a very talented professional marketing and communication firms with a broad range of experience as part of our two GECs, EAC and HNTB, that better than anyone understand what we do as an agency. Our communications team have two tasks at hand: communication of our brand, our initiatives, and communication with our project phases, whether planning, design, or construction of our projects. These two tasks integrate, and that is why at MDX we had to make an important decision that we needed to speak with one voice, and this is what our team does. A prime example of the work our team was the public involvement during the PD&E for the Kendall Parkway. This team engaged over 30,000 voters and residents directly in standing room only town meetings and community meetings, and all these residents remained engaged until this date. That is why the Kendall Parkway is the most popular transportation infrastructure project in the state of Florida and polls well across all demographics and political parties. Others, to use an example, were the PD&E with the recent opening of the Don Shula extension, which MDX took in record time planning to design and construction, and with the same public outreach team. I also want to recognize the media exposure and effort educating the public on the benefits of the divergent diamond interchange that we constructed at 27th and 57th Avenue. These were the first two divergent diamond interchanges in South Florida. I think it was the second in the state of Florida. And I remember when they were under construction, the media and a large number of people in the public said, oh, this is a minority community, this is a Hispanic community, it's going to be a disaster. Nobody's going to know how to traverse these new traffic techniques. And it's been a complete success and decongested the local streets at those respective interchanges. If there is a skill set or a specialized task that we need to perform, either one of our GECs can procure the specialist for us by adding to their own staff or by subcontracting the work. The beauty of MDX's ability to outsource labor and functions through the private sector, through its two GECs, is that when we need to ramp up on a project, we can do so. But at the same time, when we need to turn down the spigot, as we had to do when we were in the dark for the last 3 years, we have the ability to do that as well. Under your leadership, after recovering from 2.5 years of our dark period, in the last year since this board came to being, we ramped up from 0 to literally 60 miles an hour in informing the public that MDX is alive and well, educating the public on the value we bring to their quality of life and productivity, the local one-of-a-kind discount programs that MDX provides to frequent customers, active duty military personnel, and our economy with our truck tolling discount, whereby cargo containers ride for free on the MDX Expressway, the only program of its kind, as far as I know, in the nation, not in the state of Florida, in the nation. Our residents can now see how MDX, as their Miami-Dade County agency, gets involved not only in transportation and transit issues that matter to them, but also in social issues that matter to all of us, since we are all part of this community and part of this county. Now I want to introduce your marketing and communication professionals and the wealth of experience they bring to MDX, and they will make a brief presentation as to what they have done for you in the past year and for our community in the past year. As I call their names, since you may not know all of them, I asked them to stand up. Not all of them are here. I didn't ask them to come here, but the ones that are here, a lot of them are. On the EAC General Consulting team, we have as a subcontractor, Yvette Holt, president of Holt Communication, who is the lead communication strategist for the firm. Mary Starr, marketing manager, marketing and media placement. Gregory Harrelson, senior communications specialist, media relations and project public involvement. Miranda Brito, communication specialist, social media management, and project involvement, and Amanda Tang, graphics designer. On the H&TB general engineering consultant team, we have, as subcontractors, please remain standing, Tere Garcia, Senior Vice President of Bermeo, Ajameo and Partners, as lead communication and public involvement. Most of you know that Tere is also the MDX historian and a strategic advisor, since she has been with the authority since its inception 25 years ago.
Yeah, baby.
Maria Murillo, Public Information Specialist, Planning, Design, and Construction. Robert Herrera, a graphic designer. Don Jerry, Marketing Strategist. And then we have the EVC Services team, which is a sub to them, which is Esther Monzon Aguirre, President, EVC Services, Strategic Communications, Public Affairs, and Procurement Support Manager. Barbie Rodriguez, Strategic Communication and Public Affairs Specialist. Bernardo Favoli, Strategic Communications and Procurement Support Specialist. And that's our public information communication teams at MDX. And I'll turn the floor over to
Terry Garcia.
Yvette Holt.
So we're going to take you through a brief presentation of what we have done for the past year. The first thing, as we needed to establish ourselves, once again, that MDX is here, its value, we checked communications objectives. That's the first thing you need to do. And we went back to basics. And the basics are that we need to continue creating awareness of the brand of our 5 expressways, who we are, and the benefits that we bring to the community. The value in mobility, the value of our projects, and the value that a local agency, transportation agency, delivers and delivers promptly. Also ensuring that our customers and the general public develop an understanding on the investment in local infrastructure and how this transfers to a better quality of life. And lastly, maximize the outreach to our diverse community, especially and including the underserved minority communities.
These are our key strategic messages that are included in all of our communications and on our communications channels to our audiences. The first are new project openings, like the State Road 874 ramp extension, the MDX system, and really educating the community on what are those 5 MDX roadways. So when we talk about the Frequent Driver Rewards Program, the community knows these are the expressways that you receive that benefit on. MDX's commitment to customer service. Putting customers first has been the executive director's mantra to us. And so we've really taken that head on in our messaging to the public. The Red Lanes partnership with Miami-Dade County and encouraging transit across our expressways, safety and traffic advisories, and then community engagement activities or causes like making strides against breast cancer. You all went really, really hard in October, really going pink. So thank you for that. And again, our executive director has really led the way in that effort. These are our key audiences that we focus on. Number 1 are customers, residents, elected officials, business and opinion leaders, and the media, who helps us to amplify our message to all of those important audiences.
So talking about amplifying, these are the strategies that we used to project a strong image of MDX and the work that it continued to do. You all were there at the opening of the 874 ramp extension to 128th Street. We used this in print and digital media, and it received great coverage. These are some of the other messages that Yvette alluded to. This was used in print and digital. our rewards program are making an impact on the community, on the economy, on mobility. Then issues on that if you use SunPass, you get 50%, and then the Making Strides that we partnered and really gave us a great exposure in all our highways with our fleet, our pink fleet. What we used, we have used community newspaper as a very good print venue because it does cover the entire county. It covers from Aventura to South Dade to Coral Gables to North Dade, and they have provided to us not only a service of us advertising, but they have provided great coverage to all our activities. Same thing with Miami Today. We have also used them, and they have given us coverage of, you see there, the ramp and the new executive director, the Kendall Parkway. And then in a smaller scale, and mostly digital, there's the Calle Ocho News, who also has been a great partner of MDX. The second strategy has been radio. I know that it would have been too long for you to listen to all the messages, so I just pointed out there that we have done this in English, in Creole, and in Spanish to make sure that we cover everything. And all our messages you see there are expressways, the branding of the 5 expressways, save money with SunPass, and then safety messages for the holidays. We have used, to deploy these messages, 9 radio AM stations that cover from Creole, French, Spanish talk, gospel, sports talk, news, Caribbean, and 10 FM stations covering Spanish adult, whatever that means, English adult, classic rock, hip hop, R&B, urban contemporary. So it's the entire gamma that is listening to us out there. And these radio stations also have offered to us public affairs programming every time we have needed it to say a little bit more. Now I want to talk a little bit before moving into social media about the frequent drivers reward program that you just approved and what we have been doing. We have designed a media blast campaign, Everything at Once. The website is up. I believe that the credits of the first month of October were posted automatically to the SunPass account. We are using public affairs programming, the radio and print that we have under contract. We're expanding it also to the Gospel Truth and Miami Times. The print and media also under contract, and social media. This is some of the ads that you will be seeing out there, highlighting that no registration is required to participate, what the requirements are, and the fact that you get the credit automatically, and our 5 expressways. And these are the images that also you will be seeing in social media, which already have been deployed.
These messages have been deployed on social media. We'll be boosting them to amplify our message, and boosting is a very small investment with social media platforms to increase awareness with our followers, but also to help us reach new target markets. And depending on the platform, you can seek new followers or gain attention with people based on demographics. It may be age, it may be location, financial, or depending on the social media's algorithm, it could be what the algorithm perceives are that person's interests. So look for that in the coming days. Next, thanks. You know, as Bernie said, we've been dark for a really, really long time, and we're so excited at your direction and the executive director's encouragement that we were able to relaunch MDX's social media channels. And I'm very happy to say that we have exponentially grown our reach, our impressions, our audiences this fiscal year. This is just a dashboard that we provide each month. What we've done here is compiled it from the beginning of the fiscal year through the middle of last month. And what you can see here is that LinkedIn, by far and away, has the most significant growth with more than 367% increase in impressions over that period, 72,000 views on our posts there. And we've earned almost 400 new followers on LinkedIn. Facebook is the platform that we've held the longest. We've reached more than 5,000 people with an individual post, and post engagements are up more than 150,000. On Instagram, that is our newest platform. It's the platform with the most opportunity for growth. Everything is up more than 100%. We've reached more than 1,000 individual accounts. We've had 438 content interactions, and that's just not posts, that's also stories, which is something new that we've implemented this year. A lot of our breast cancer awareness facts came through by way of stories. And Twitter is second only to LinkedIn with impressions. We have almost 30,000 tweet impressions over the last 4 months. And that's very significant when you think that the number of followers, or you know that the number of followers that we have on Twitter are less than 3,000. So tenfold we're getting impressions from people who are liking, commenting, and sharing that information.
Go ahead.
For those of them, not us, who are on this dais who don't quite understand the impression part of social media, because there's a difference between clicks and impressions and comments and all. Can you lay it out?
Yeah,
And even members of the public who may be listening, I want them to truly grasp the concept of the importance of these numbers.
All right. I've had to learn it too, man, so trust me. Go ahead.
I'm glad that you asked that. I was trying to get it in, but we're also trying to be brief. And think of it in two ways, impressions versus engagement. So engagement means you took an action. You liked something, you clicked on it, clicked a link, you shared it, you provided a comment, and impressions are the people who just see it, right? So if you follow me on Twitter and I like something that MDX has posted, or I retweet something that MDX has posted, then it'll appear in your feed because you follow me. And an example of a partnership that has been very effective for us is with the TPO. On Twitter, they like and retweet a number of our posts. So we appreciate that greatly. So that just expands our audience. Next. These are examples of, I'm sorry, were you going to say something else? Were you going to say something else? No. Oh, okay.
Further explaining that means almost 30,000
Yes.
Yes, 30,000 people saw something. So we don't have quite 3,000 people who actually follow us, but 30,000 people saw what we posted, even though they don't directly follow MDX on Twitter. These are top posts, one for each platform. This post on Twitter is a Miami Herald story that was generated from our press release on a safety improvement project to detect wrong-way drivers. It got more than 1,600 impressions, which means people saw that, and 14 people interacted, means they liked or commented on that particular post. On Facebook, the #1 post for this period is on a construction project, that's the I-395, and this post in particular is about the beams going in for the double-decker bridge. So people really found that interesting and commented on Facebook. And on the next slide, on LinkedIn, it was also the most popular post. More than 8,000 people saw that post. 306 people interacted. Our audience on LinkedIn are a lot of people who are in the industry, so they have an increased interest in that. I imagine there's a lot of consultants working on that who's shared that message as well. But that's great. That's an audience for us as well. And on Instagram, this visual is about SunPass and encouraging our customers to use SunPass because you save 50% with SunPass over toll by plate. So that's an important message. But as you can see, 3 out of the 4 top messages were about improvement projects. So understanding that, that will really drive a lot of the content that you see going forward. And all of these are 100% organic. There was no boosting, no advertising. This is just interest in what we've been posting. So we will continue to go in that direction for improvements. Another strategy that we have started ramping up is grassroots community events. We've been hitting the streets, events that are industry related, small and minority business community related. We've gone to Florida City for the inaugural Peace Walk, and we've gone to Sweet Home Baptist Church for their back to school giveaway. And again, you see the breast cancer awareness. And those kind of grassroots campaigns really help us show our strong commitment to being a good partner in the community. But this kind of outreach really isn't new for MDX. These are some images of things that we have done in the past, and we look forward to doing much more of this in the new fiscal year. Esther's group does a great deal of this, and many of these were in conjunction with county commission offices. So she's taking steps to get us back to doing that. So again, in the new fiscal year, we look forward to doing that. Our goal is to significantly increase the grassroots outreach that we do, whether it's through special events or one-on-one meetings with community leaders and the executive director to help us make inroads and really build alliances in all of the communities in South Florida. So, well, thank you. And, I just want to say that, we've had a real successful relaunch, we think, but we know that we have a really long way to go. There's so much that we want to do, and we've really started to plan for the future. We had a really great strategy session this week, and I think that in the upcoming workshop, you may be hearing more about those strategies. But on behalf of the communications team, thank you for your very strong support of our role here, educating the community.
And I hope that you see that this is a great team that you have here, and that we work together and we do speak in one voice. Thank you.
Thank you. And on this presentation, social media is here to stay. And it's only growing, and man, of course, it is just moving in a way that it's hard to keep up, and I'm glad Lou is just doing a good job in keeping up on her part. But it is hard to really, really grasp it all. But we need to find ways. And I'm really glad to hear, and this presentation shows that we're diversifying in every angle of it, and not just in the different levels of social media, but also in the community, which is extremely important, because the targeting in social media, I've learned, is kind of like the most important thing. And once you have those followings, you don't want to lose them. And on the opposite, you want to grow them. So you got to have to keep giving new platforms and new things to constantly move on it. So I know the members will want to make some comments on this, because this is the best form we could control who we are and what we do. The only additive that I have is that now there's a metamorphosing of bringing some, what's the word I'm saying, I guess, influencers. The other day I went to a school and asked, well, who wants to be this or that? And mentioned astronaut, only a couple of raised their hands, doctors, 2, lawyers, I think it was 1, and then as an influencer, and the whole room were like that. So obviously we need to understand and continue on. So once again, thank you, and I'm ready to hear from my colleagues.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. And I'm glad to hear that we are open to expanding the resources, you know, that are needed in order to get our message out. You know, obviously we've got, you know, a great team, but we have to put the resources in, have to be willing to do that. You know, we can't, you know, just sit around and think that we're going to get free media, free this or free that, you know, in order to tell our story. So we have to be willing to put the resources in, because if we don't tell the story of all the good things that we do, you know, as a board, then somebody else is going to tell that story, and you know how that normally, you know, turns out. So again, I would just advocate that we place more resources in this, because we can do all this great work in the community, and if, you know, the people don't know it, you know, and understand it, and understand that, you know, that this great group is behind trying to make their lives better, then it's just like we hadn't really done any of that. And then all of the negative stuff, you know, which is going to always be out. There's going to always be noise. I don't care what you do. If you're an elected body and you're a public body, there will always be noise. But what we need to do is to make sure that we can counter some of that noise with the good things that we're doing. I mean, the breast cancer thing, I mean, that was everybody, you know, kind of saw, you know, that particular piece, you know. Going after, I've always talked about going after new markets, you know. Let's try to cultivate, you know, some of those new markets, some of those communities out there that, you know, maybe in the past, you know, we haven't really thought about, but they can be some of our best allies, you know, when it comes down to projects that we're trying to get support for out there in the community. I think the Kendall Parkway is a good example, because you saw folks coming from Naranja and all over the place in support of the Kendall Parkway, you know, and who would have thought that? You know, normally it would have been, well, just the folks who live around, you know, the Kendall, you know, Parkway area, and the environmental community and so on and so forth. But again, there are new markets out there that we can cultivate, and we can utilize this great team to basically to do that. And so, Bernie, this cargo rides for free, what could you give me some?
When we closed our system, when I first joined MDX, one of my first assignments was there was a lot of feedback from the community and from the Board of County Commissioners that because we closed the system and there was an increase in the toll rates, especially for the trucking industry, we had this $1 billion port tunnel that the state of Florida and Miami-Dade County had invested in to divert traffic out of downtown Miami. Well, the fear was that the trucks were going to get off the highway and use the local streets and continue to go through downtown Miami and over the bridge instead of using that beautiful port tunnel. So my former director tasked me with meeting with the industry and figuring out a solution. So through our friend, Mr. Roviroso from Pontoc, met with him and met with the major trucking companies in Miami-Dade County and Broward County and said, you come to the table with me and let's figure out a solution. And the industry came up with a solution. So that's why it's the only one in the nation like this, which is simple solution. After 2 or 3 meetings, we came up with the presidents of all the trucking companies and the stevedores over at the port. We came up with a solution of capping our tolls for the trucking industry at 3 axles. So if you look at a tractor trailer cargo containers going to the port, 3 axles is the cab, the rig itself. So anything behind there rides for free on our highways, meaning trucker going to the port, he gets paid on how many trips he can make to the port. So whether he's going to the port with a full cargo container or coming back with an empty to go to Doral or go on to Hialeah or wherever to pick up the next, he's riding for free. So his incentive, I'm going to stay on the highway. That's why you see all this increased truck traffic on our highways, especially on the 836, that you've never seen before, because it doesn't make sense for them to get down on which is good for our communities because they don't tear the local roads. They don't create traffic jams on the local roads. They don't tear into the infrastructure, which you have to repair with those heavy containers, cargo containers. They're on our highway where they should be, using that beautiful, expensive tunnel like they should be. And that's what it is.
Well, you know, and I asked that question because, again, to me, that's that's a great story. I mean, that's a great story about how, you know, we are working with the community to try to save, you know, the commercial, you know, the truck drivers, the commercial part of our community, save them funds and save our neighborhoods, you know, from, you know, being impacted as well, you know, and that's a story that needs to be told.
And that's why I always say, we not only help commuters, but we help the economy, because we're moving freight. People forget about that. When they say, oh, highways should go away, we should only build transit. Well, highways are important because it moves the economy, creates the jobs, creates the international trade. And 836 connects FIU, connects Miami International Airport, Port of Miami. It connects to Miami Beach, downtown Miami, the hospital district. So this connects all the employment generators and economic engines of this county.
But see, I didn't know that, you know, and, you know, I'm, you know, probably more informed than the average, you know, person out there, just because of, you know, what I'm involved in. And that's, to me, that's a great story. I mean, that's a story about us supporting the economy, supporting, you know, logistics and getting stuff around, and, you know, the supply chain and all that kind of good stuff. I don't know how to, you know, that's for those experts out there to craft it. But we should be telling that story. We should be telling that story all the time, because we're saving, you know, those businesses, those companies, we're saving them money.
Right.
You know, and that's a major.
Bernie, if I
you know.
may I add and expand on that, the importance of what you guys did on your end. Presenting on the Port of Miami Town is still my favorite speaking engagement, so I'm going to take a point of privilege here, having done it for 5 years. Trucks were mandated to utilize the tunnel. So since 1979, when the DOT identified there was an issue with all those trucks exiting our highway system and navigating through downtown Miami, you know, tearing up our infrastructure, you know, finally in 1990, the dollars are found, and in 2010, we break ground for the tunnel. Trucks were mandated to utilize the tunnel. Unless you're carrying hazardous materials, then you cannot take the tunnel for obvious reasons. But you were mandated to utilize it. So what Miami-Dade Expressway Authority did at that time, and all those meetings and the rearrangement of the actual charging model, I think was especially important, because they had to maintain themselves on the highway system. So, I mean, it goes back to expanding on the fact that we continue to do this great service for the community, and thank you for calling my tunnel beautiful. It really is. If you haven't driven it, you have to drive it.
And
I think that's my tunnel.
Listen, there's like 1,000 people who's telling that. It really was an incredible team effort. I'm just privileged to have
That's going to
been
be a long fight.
part of the building. I was just part of the group that built the darn thing with 987 of my closest colleagues.
That's something that we went through in a time in this town that I would tell you that it was not easy dealing with all the unions, all the issues, all the trucking companies, and especially the cruise lines. And the cruise lines were very difficult. And I remember the campaigns and so on. And I was on the frying pan, and several of us were.
Yeah.
But the reality is that information is important. What we do is important. And the Vice Chairman added very good points. Multi-languages is extremely important. But we talk about social media, but we need to keep all the forms available. Radio, people say is gone. No, it's not. It's actually doing better than ever. And television, you know, it's expensive. When we can, I guess we'll try. And that comes to the wisdom of you, as the Vice Chairman said, you know, those that do and know. But we really need not to lose anything on the market share of the advertisement and who we are and what we do. On the opposite, anything we could gain, I think this board will be very positive on. Anybody else? Oh, Ms. Wano.
Thank you, Yvette, and thank you, Terry, and your teams for a wonderful, wonderful presentation. But what resonated with me, and I have to say thank you for, was the comment you made, one voice. For me, that is so important, that we are able to share our story, and just want to sort of, not an advertisement for, but think about Reels and TikTok, because we use them at the college, for the younger generation. the one voice is important. And I am so proud to be part of this group, and we do speak with one voice. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to commend our executive director and the team for really just incredibly changing the dynamic and getting us to where this board wants to be with relation to outreach. I could tell you, as a member of the engineering and transportation community and infrastructure community, I see it in those alliances that Ms. Holt referred to, whether it's ASCE or FES or any of the industry groups are constantly amplifying the message and really putting these investments and these improvements in front of our residents and in front of our users. I would just make a comment for the future. I know we're doing a lot in the area of also engaging small and disadvantaged businesses. So beyond the wonderful work that we're doing with the public, maybe in future discussions, that same effort with relation to small and disadvantaged businesses, would love to learn more as to how we're, upping the ante and getting, getting us to where we want to be. So
Love to.
kudos to the entire team, Madam Director.
Anybody else? All right. Executive Director, you don't want to add anything?
So I think ever since I started here in April, I heard, the board loud and clear that we have to tell our story. As a matter of fact, we had a brainstorming session with our customer service team, and that's the one thing that came up was we can only tell our story. So I appreciate the vice chair bringing that up. And of course, the other statement is customers first. If we lead by putting our customers first, and we have many different types of customers. It's not just one, people talk about the driver. There's the driver. Then there's the communities that are impacted because of our expressways. And it's how do we engage all of them and put their interests first. So I really commend the team for really pushing the vision. And I always say we can always do better. I never want to stay and say, oh, well, I think we're doing just good enough. And that's not the way we function around here. And this board really, really has come up to the plate to really push the agency to a better future. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
We need to discuss what we do or,
Yes.
what was it?
Workshop.
A symposium or what? Whatever Member Modesty says, I follow. That word was not good. Marines are special about that word. We don't even say it. It's not in our language. Okay. Next item. Thank you once again for an incredible report, but most of all, thank you for the work that you guys do. All right? All right. Let's go. Procurement report.
That's just included in your package.
The procurement report is in your package,
Okay.
yes.
Reports. Treasurer's report.
And before I do that, let me say to your comment, Board Member Cueto, thank you for that. When it comes to procurement, we do have our 10% policy, and I'm very proud to see that in a lot of these contracts that you see approving, we actually go up to 15%. And I know Mr. Vice Chair has really held us to the fire on making sure that we have a positive impact to our small business community and disadvantaged community. Our procurement team, it's just second to none, I think, and I've had the privilege of working with them most of the times doing our oversight as well. So I think we're doing great there, going above policy and holding our contracts that we push out there for them to stick to that percentage. So I'm proud on that end as well. On my treasurer's report, it's very simple. It's in your packet. It's a one-sheeter, and it's all positive. I will, just for the record, I do want to make a correction. Marie and I picked up on yesterday. The far left corner says fiscal year 2023 actual. It should be 22, clearly. Fiscal year 2022 actual, and then we start with fiscal year 2023 actual and comparing it to forecast, as you can see. I want to make a few points. First of all, we're extremely healthy and very, very strong. Secondly, month over month, year to date, you can see that continues to be a trend. Traffic has been up 16%. Our overall revenue up 14%. Of course, expenses were up slightly because of some of the operations at about 11%, but we continue to be very strong and so noticeably strong, and I want to commend our executive director and our CFO for meeting with the credit rating agencies and maintaining that dialogue and sharing with them the strength of the organization, because I was very, very proud to see Moody's report that came out 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago now. But Fitch's report rating also came out September 16th. You all got the email. But I do want to read off of each report a couple of sentences because I'm very, very proud of the fact that that's where we are despite all the noise. The Fitch rating on September 16th moved us up from negative to stable, which is huge if you understand that credit agency language, and a B plus or B cube plus. And the outlook revision reflects Fitch's view that despite the ongoing litigation, the authority has adapted to the limitations on toll rate setting and funding access by effectively managing operations while maintaining a solid financial profile. MDX continues to demonstrate flexibility in managing the system's asset maintenance and has reprioritized its capital plan to ensure healthy fiscal metrics and liquidity balances are maintained. The strong post-pandemic traffic and revenue performance supports future cash flow generation. That was Fitch in 9/16 when they moved us up to stable. 2 weeks ago, Moody's report, and there'll be a lengthier report that Moody will release next week, I believe, Marie, right? And then we can take a look at that one. But their initial report on November 22nd moved us up to an A3 rating and back to stable from negative rating. A3 rating reflects MDX's strong market position as a well-established, primarily commuter toll road system that provides vital transportation links in a major economic center. MDX's rating also reflects its narrowing financial profile, which has been impacted by toll rate reductions through 2019 and the coronavirus outbreak. Despite that, they note, however, traffic and revenue have recovered to pre-pandemic levels, being at 6.9% and 11.2% above fiscal year 2019 levels for fiscal year 2022. These are the credit agencies talking about us this way. We're a capital-intense organization, and here we are, despite all the noise, as I like to call it, because that's all it really is. Our staff, our leadership has very good earmuffs, and despite all the noise, we continue to do the work, and we're finally getting to a point where credit agencies are realizing, hey, nothing can shake these guys, really. So I'm very, very proud of that. My treasurer's report is made that much easier because of where we are with this incredible team. So thank you for that.
Good job, Madam Treasurer. Executive Director.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. To the team, yeah, baby.
So I just want to add to something Lou said. I personally sat with Marie in this, now with Moody's, and the one thing that stood out to me is not only are the finances strong, but it also shows the initiatives that this board continues pushing to make the expressways better, to make our operations and maintenance better, make a huge difference. They're not just looking at the finances, they're looking, of course, at the overall picture of what this board, the policies you push forward, regardless of what's going on behind the scenes. So kudos, and I commend the board for that as well. So just wanted to make that statement.
Okay. My report is, or comments, as they say, is that this agency has survived, I think, something that many entities would never have survived. And it survived because of the people's will that work here. They wouldn't walk away, they would stand tall, and they did their job, even with the uncertainty of what was facing them. And that is something that is admirable in everybody's eyes, especially mine. You know, in the Marine Corps, you face sometimes objectives that are impossible, but that's what you're there to do. But that's something that you do in the military, not in an entity. And that is something that, and Luz and everybody has stated, that you need to have special individuals to be able to work for that entity, to be able to be strong enough and to keep it afloat in the worst of times. And the best of times, everybody takes credit for everything. Unfortunately, I come from 31 years of that going on, and I know my colleagues that have been in the soup, per se, understand exactly what I'm coming from. But that cannot end. On the opposite. It needs to grow. As an independent entity that we are, that represents Miami-Dade County's citizens, is the importance of what this board is. because the more I look to what transcribed in the last years and try to analyze it, it comes back to those individuals that stood tall. And that's why we need to continue the same format, not only in the people that are out there doing the work, that we celebrate the work they've done, but our leadership needs to maintain itself through the executive director and through this board and everybody else that works with this entity. So I guess the best way of putting it is we need to continue, but also looking in the barriers and objectives that we have for the future, continue to analyze them the way this board has done, and continue to do it in the same fashion, but also taking the nuances that are thrown our way and adapting accordingly to it. Because if we don't, we might find ourselves with a lack of history in the wrong direction. And that's something none of us want to see, especially for we do want to make sure that we continue to honor those that have gone through the worst of time. And now we're moving into other times and uncertain times. They're very uncertain times in the years to come. And we're blessed to have that rating, but that shows the work that all those have done. So to all of you, thank you once again, because some of us, most of us are here are new, except for two. Thank you for the work you've done throughout the years here, because, again, it wasn't easy times. It was very difficult times, whether they're going to get a paycheck or they're not, but they continue to work no matter what happened. And I cannot be honored more by you guys than what I've been honored by you. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my executive report, I have some updates to give. I'm going to start with the Frequent Driver Rewards Program. The closeout for fiscal year 22, we closed it out at $2.1 million, and those credits, which was approved back in October, were put on the SunPass accounts of our users, and that was in early November. Now, for the temporary program you all approved for the fiscal year 23, the numbers came back already for October, and our total rebate was $1.3 million, and those credits were posted earlier this week to the SunPass accounts. And our November rebate just came in, and it's at $1.1 million. So we are on track with what we had estimated was going to be the potential impacts for this program. So we're in good shape as the months continue, and I'll give another update at our next board meeting. Some project updates, the double-decker we like to call the 83611. The estimated work completed is approximately 67%. The contractor continues to work on the widening of the on-ramp of Northwest 12th Avenue Health District to eastbound State Road 836. The westbound bypass on I-395 to State Road 836 is scheduled to open early next year. So we're still on track with our schedule, and of course we're anticipating this project ultimately being completed in December of 2026. So our wrong way countermeasures project, our safety project that we've gotten a lot of kudos on and a lot of information that gets requested from many different agencies that we're proud to be doing throughout our system. Construction commenced on that with the installation of the single post signs throughout the system where no conflicts with ongoing construction has been identified. We're also coordinating the communications protocol required for the integration with the SunGuide system, which is very important because, of course, the intent is how fast can we react when a driver is going to the right way driving? So now we're putting those protocols in place as part of the project. For the Kendall Parkway, which we've mentioned several times in this meeting, overall we've closed on 44 parcels to date. The cost to date is $13.5 million. We currently have 20 parcels under contract, and the total appraised value is $3.9 million. We're also negotiating about 23 parcels that are in different phases of the process, and those were anticipated and, of course, budgeted for fiscal year 23, which this board approved back in June of this year. Some announcements. I do want to congratulate Yolanda Cash Jackson with Becker. I'm sure you all know her. She has represented MDX in Tallahassee for many years. She's a superstar, as we all know. And she was just elected as the chair of the Beacon Council, and she was also named as the Florida Trends 2022 Floridian of the Year. So if Yolanda and her team is listening, we're very proud of her.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, you all probably received an email from our board secretary regarding the FAV Summit, the Florida Automated Vehicle Summit, which is next week in Jacksonville, the December 14th through the 16th. I believe the deadline to register for that, Maria Luisa, what day is that to register? Is it or early next week? Yep. Well, it's next. So if any of you are interested in attending, I know, just shoot Maria Luisa an email and let her know. Workshop/summit/retreat, whatever you guys, we end up, workshop.
Bad word.
Okay, so hashtag, yes. So the potential dates we're looking at right now is between the 9th and the 10th. I know Maria Luisa is going to be sending, that's on February, February.
February. Could we bring it a little earlier?
So because we have a board meeting on the 24th, and then we wanted to have an opportunity to bring any action items from that workshop to our board meeting in February. The way the dates fell, we were looking at that week. We could look at the week prior to. I know we're working with, thank you to Shelley, board member Shelley Fano, Miami-Dade College. We're working with them to try to get our site secured and the location. But of course, we need to now start checking on the dates on what works for everybody. So you're going to see some emails on that early next week or later today. And
That's why, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We've been talking about this for a while, and we were trying to do it before the end of the year, and we knew we couldn't because everybody was doing. So the earliest we could do it in the start of the year gets us running as fast, and that's something we discussed, and a lot. So we want to make sure that the earlier the better. Whatever could be done, guys, I would really appreciate it.
so I just want to add that we did hire a procurement consultant to really look at our document, because we really want to bring you something that you can have a healthy discussion and understand what's the industry practice, and that they're still completing it now, which has also driven the timeline a bit. And of course, the aesthetics, I think we're pretty secure on that it was going to be done by the end of this month. And now, of course, we're probably going to have a piece included in this workshop, which has to do with that customer service, which we just presented to you today. So there's a lot of moving parts, which has pushed out the timeline to early part of next year versus the end of this year, just because of us doing our due diligence. But I think we'll try to work to see
Whatever
how we
you
can
could
move
do.
it up. But
Yeah.
we're on the, yeah. Okay. Of January?
Try going earlier
What
instead
about
of
the
later.
10th? Okay.
Second is Groundhog Day. We can do it all over again.
February 2nd. What day does that fall on?
Depending when he shows us.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll work on, we're going to look at some of those. It doesn't have to be those days. It could be the week before, so.
Yeah. Question on agenda. You mentioned the procurement policy. Mr. Chair, since we haven't done committees, back when we were 13 members and then 9, we've historically had committees, and one of them was policy committee, which I had the privilege to chair for a while. And we always looked to ways to improve or see what we were missing with whatever changing times was. Perhaps we take some time to review some of the other key policies, not just procurement, as part of the workshop. Of course, we'll have it ahead of time, so if anybody has any thoughts or recommendations, we can, hammer them all out at the agenda. That will be at the summit. That will be part of the agenda, my recommendation, and the aesthetics, of course.
That's part of the reasons. Look, we're all looking at many things, and from our experiences that we all have, we're bringing a lot to the table. The executive director is trying to bring stuff to the table. Everybody, and I know our legal side is doing the same. The problem is we need to get to the table, because I wanted to start the year strong. Okay, by the way, we're strong, and we've already gone through that. But we could be stronger, and we could be more efficient, and we could be more fluent in what we're doing, and more understanding of what is done out there. So I really, really would like, I know if we could address it, maybe a day, day and a half, 2 days, but whatever it is, I would like to do it sooner than later, based on the way things are shaping for the future. And we want to make sure that everything that was said today gets applied sooner than later. Because what you said about committees, actually, I was already drawing up and looking at. And a couple other things, some things that the vice chairman said, and across this board, everybody's opinions is important, but we need to address them and get them because, and that's what I meant by independency. Because the more we are that entity, I think the more that rating continues to grow. Because we are molding our own future with the main goal of citizens of Miami-Dade County. So that's why, please, if you could take and maybe move some of the things that you guys have and try to do it earlier, it would be highly appreciated. Okay?
Second is safe.
Yeah.
Second, all day.
Okay. We'll send out an email
That's
with that
breakfast, lunch,
information.
and dinner,
Okay.
all day, and some of these
Mr. Attorney?
on IV.
No, I have nothing.
Oh, you were looking like you wanted to say something in the mic.
Oh, I can always say something, but nothing of value.
It just always looks like he's going to say something.
Mr. Vice Chairman.
I'm just waiting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And your words were beautiful during your comments. You reflected on leadership. And I just believe that, you know, your boldness as the chair of the Board of County Commissioners and working with your colleagues at the time to get them to really get behind MDX was a major turning point. So I want to thank you for that and for your leadership. And I want to finally say to both you and to Commissioner Monestein, you know, once you're commissioner, you're always a commissioner. Yeah. Thank you for your hard work over the years on behalf of the citizens of Miami-Dade County as you retire from. And I appreciate you. I know this board appreciates you and this community appreciates you. Thank you.
All right.
I have just
Go ahead.
one more thing. Gary Walsh. I know Gary's in. I think he's here. Juan wants to say a couple words. Gary's been working with MDX for a very, 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 very long time. And this is his last board meeting that he will be attending. So Juan just wanted to say a couple words.
So yeah, I would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge Gary today in his last meeting. Gary has been in the industry for 45 years. He started with HNTB in 1979 and has been with them this entire time. He started on the MDX program 17 years ago in 2006 after we bifurcated the GCs and we went to the 2 GC mode. And as I was expressed earlier, the importance of the GC to MDX has been something that we don't want to overlook. Gary has been a rock for 17 years. He's been someone that has been very critical in almost every aspect of the MDX program, from engineering to finance, procurement, all around with tolls and everything. So I wanted to congratulate him on his retirement. We wish him well. And Gary?
Gary, you could come up.
Gary, the podium is yours.
Yeah.
I just want to thank everybody here. It has been a pleasure to work with every board, every employee here at MDX, as well as my other clients. But again, what I can say is I've never been bored one day. I have had something to do every day, and it's really, really something that I have enjoyed my entire career. So again,
That is a
thank you.
good job.
Thank you for letting me work with you. I have to figure it out.
Congratulations, Gary.
Honey-do list, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's it.
Oh, I'm avoiding that one like crazy. So, anybody else? Member Cueto.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just wanted to share with the board and with the group here that the Miami Park and Ride, the county's Miami Park and Ride opened this past week. The 837 express bus service, which runs on our red lanes along the 836, is now active. We have, I think we have routes at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and 9 a.m. And for those of you who are not familiar with where that facility is located, it's on Miami Trail and about southwest 147th Avenue. So for those commuters out west, they have an opportunity to go to the airport, to downtown on this service, thanks to investments made by the county and the community. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you, and I was there, and it was an honor to be there, especially with that came back from several years ago, and it was a lot of yay and nays on it, but look at today, the reality, and we're finally doing something with the east, to west, and we're doing it properly, so outstanding. Good job.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
quickly, because my sinus med's wearing off. We just lost, I guess, some very, very important heads on our county commission. My colleague here, but they're not going too far. Up in the north, Sally Heyman was our representative in Aventura. We threw a whole party for her to bid her farewell. I actually sang. It's on YouTube if you want to see that. But also our chair, Mr. Pepe Diaz. And I think we would all be remiss if we didn't acknowledge as well. You came into this board. I think both Shelly and I were very excited. At first, kind of nervous, but also very excited because you're a dog with a bone, and you set your mind into something, and you put together this board. And I think we're exactly the people that need to be sitting right here, right now, with the staff that we have, and your work on the county commission, which dates way, way back. Someone in the in the municipality side looking at their county commission and how well we work together back in my time at Aventura and now my 10 years at MDX. I can say that you've been a great leader, and I personally want to thank you. And on behalf of my still constituents, because, yeah, you're still commissioner, and they certainly still call me. So I want to say thank you for all your work on the county commission and here on this board with MDX with us. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Tell you something, could not have been done without the people that were there around, because if you do not get their buy-in and they don't work with you, then nothing gets done. And my brother from a different mother, and on both sides, we pray for those that are now continuing. and the news, we wish them the very best. You guys are paying attention, right? And from all of us, thank you. I think, Mr. Attorney, anything left?
Just a motion to adjourn.
Move it.
There we go.
Oh, but yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Guaido, that belongs to the deed.
Happy
I was,
holidays. Happy holidays.
Oh, yes. Yes, happy holidays to all. And God bless you all. All right? Thank you. Meeting's adjourned.